Hello everyone! Last week we did the review of Bardsung, and today we're bringing you the review of Fables Expansion, which contains all the Kickstarter stretch goals. We will go through a ton of new characters, enemies, and all the game components that will enhance your experience when you're playing Bardsung. My name is Nick, and we are Tabletop Duo. Thanks for joining us, and if you're new to our channel, we do unboxing, review, miniature painting tutorials, and how to play videos of your favorite board games. If you like our content, consider subscribing to get your weekly dose of board games and hit the bell button to receive a notification whenever a new video comes up. We will start by checking the components, then we will go through an overview of the characters, the new chapters, and the all-new narrative encounters. And then we will wrap it up with our thoughts on the expansion. So let's start with the box contents. The game comes with a new adventure book containing all the new narrative encounters and a bunch of new chapters. Then we have two new inserts full of new miniatures, including the new heroes. You have the Demon Blade, Fate Song, Fire Soul, Forge Warden, Glade Strider, Path Seeker, Skull Speeder, and Swift Claw. New monsters, we have the Basilisk, Cloaker, Effervescent Ooze, Goblin Thief, Growl, Predator, Wolfpack, Blood Axe, Cave Shark, Forsaken, Last Vanguard, Oni, Scourge, and duplicates of basic enemies. Then you get a bunch of new deck of cards for character abilities and character weapons, as well as new treasures. Initiative cards for the new heroes, as well as their stats cards, and the attack and stats cards of the new enemies. Now let's do an overview of each one of the new characters, because that's one of the big things that Fable brings to the table. You can play any of these heroes on your base game, just replacing one of the base game heroes with any of these. Fire Soul is a Pyromancer. She's a ranged character that uses a d6 for damage. She uses her abilities to burn targets, which will gain burn tokens. Every time she burns a target, she replenishes fate. Her abilities allow heroes to remove or use burn tokens from targets to gain certain advantages, like healing herself, empowering damage rolls, or moving targets around. Skull Splitter is kind of a berserker. He rolls a d10 for damage and uses abilities that deal massive damage, including some that have a new type of attack called chain attacks. When you play a card with the symbol, you get to play another ability without spending another action. Once you do a chain attack, you might also spend fate to do an extra attack. Skull Splitter gameplay is about receiving buffs or giving debuffs whenever he receives wound tokens or attack enemies that have them. Glade Strider is a centaur with a hawk that uses a d8 for damage. This is a melee hero, and his gameplay is about getting a series of benefits whenever it moves during the round. For example, he might empower an attack roll or upgrade a damage die if he moved a certain number of spaces during the round. Another cool passive allows a character on the same node as him to move along, if it was riding the centaur. Demon Blade is some sort of Arthas Lich King character mixed with a berserker. This character's gameplay is about using the Soul Reaper sword to shuffle not only the Demon Blade initiative card, but also a Hex card on the initiative track, and use the position of the Hex card along with initiative to gain advantage when the Hex card is close to another enemy. The character's other weapon, the Demon's Anger, allows the player to switch between a version of the Demon Blade that's melee, uses a d8 attack, and strength as its bonus modifier, and the other version of the Demon Blade that uses ranged attacks, a d6 for damage, and intelligence as a bonus modifier. Another characteristic of this character's gameplay is that it gains buffs if it defeats other enemies. It's a complex character to play, but I think a lot of people will love it. Forge Warden is the next hero in line. He is a robot character that plays like a tank, using a d6 for damage rolls. Its gameplay is about pushing characters away, getting defense buffs, and recovering fate for the group. Next, we have Fate Song, which is a bard that has short-range abilities and uses a d4 for damage roll. Its gameplay is about spending fate to give benefits to the team and doing certain actions that will replenish the fate. It's also about playing with the initiative track, either by allowing her to attack enemies that are closer to her initiative card, ignoring range, or simply moving along the initiative track with some passive abilities. Then we have Swift Claw, which is a monk lizard melee character that uses a d6 for damage roll. Its special ability is that if it hits 2 or more attacks during its turn, it replenishes 1 fate after resolving each subsequent attack. Its gameplay is about using chain attacks and dealing a series of debuffs that weaken enemies, and moves Swift Claw along the board. And to wrap up the heroes roster, we have the Path Seeker, which is a kind of elf that uses a bow for ranged attacks and deal 1d6 for damage roll. Its unique ability is called Kill Shot, and what it does is that if a character defeats an enemy and remove their cards from the initiative track, they will replenish 2 fate. This character's gameplay is about using its agility to move along the style spaces or gain advantage on initiative track while hitting enemies in long-range attacks that deal damage and debuff enemies. Another interesting ability it has is that it can camouflage itself whenever it's on the same space as other heroes, so that enemies will choose to attack other heroes even if Pathseeker would be the target. I have to say I was really excited and happy as I was playing with each one of the new heroes, and I hope I was able to give you a sneak peek of their gameplay. So let me know in the comments which new heroes you liked more and which type of play style you like to play when you're playing dungeon crawl board games. Now let's talk about the all-new narrative encounters. Instead of randomly drawing corridors and room cards, the narrative encounters have a specific layout set for them, and rooms and corridors will get their respective narrative cards next to them. Whenever the party reaches the room, you flip the narrative card and you do what it says. Narrative encounters also have unique conditions for completing them, which are usually revealed as you are exploring the dungeon. Besides the narrative encounters, there are a ton of new chapters you can play, and some of them were written by guests like Jonathan Green and Luke Gygax. For enemies, you get a bunch of new goblin types, including a goblin thief that will steal your loot, kobold, orcs, and a basilisk. And that's it for an overview of everything you will find in the box. As you can see, there is a ton of extra content for the game, which is really exciting. It's been a while since I see so much value added to the base game from Kickstarter stretch goals in one box. The new heroes are really fun to play. I would say like all of them are really great. And each one of them have their own play style, which are very different from the base heroes. Their miniatures are distinct and good looking, and they have also more meaningful weapons. The new narrative encounters are also a very good addition because they will change the pacing by switching between randomly generated dungeons and bespoke dungeons with curated content. Besides that, the new chapters written by famous guests add many extra hours of fun to this game. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.